process. Pure, raw sport, fueled by the misguided idea of party over country.
Okay, let's discuss this with Ross Feingold. He joins me from Taipei and is a political risk analyst and the former Asia chairman of Republicans Abroad. Ross, always good to speak to you. We heard a little of what Trump's lawyers will be presenting before the Senate. Do you think they have a strong argument?
The key thing is that there's a sufficient number of Republican senators who don't feel that the actions of President Trump on January 6th rise to the level of a conviction for this impeachment. So regardless of what the Democrat impeachment managers say, or the Republicans, or I should say, former President Trump's lawyers argue, or what Democratic senators or Republican senators say when they have an opportunity to speak, it looks like this is not going to be upheld. So we've now moved into what's more for the historical record than it is to actually get or result in some kind of action against former President Trump, since we know how the Republican senators are going to vote.
Yeah, of course, they need 17 Republican senators to vote the way with the Democrats. But in Tuesday's vote, we saw 6 Republicans vote to go ahead with this trial, saying that it is constitutional. They essentially broke ranks with their party. So do you really expect to see more of that when it comes to the actual vote over the coming days?
That still looks very, very unlikely to go. Only one switched his vote in the past few days since the earlier vote about this procedural question as to the constitutionality of having an impeachment trial for a former president. To get that many more Republicans to vote to uphold the impeachment to convict former President Trump, this still looks extraordinarily unlikely. And we could sort of, based on the video presentation that has attracted a lot of discussion in the hours after it was shown, that's basically the evidence. So even if they subpoena witnesses, we basically know what they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about what President Trump said at the rally, the actions of people who broke into the Capitol and the violence that they used and the damage that they caused, the fear that congressional staff or members of Congress had. They could talk about that for the entire period of time that they're allotted, but that still is not going to sway a sufficient number of Republicans to vote to convict former President Trump.
Ross, as somebody who lives abroad and is based there, how do you think the international community is viewing what's playing out in the U.S.? I mean, you've got a leader who's been impeached twice, never before happened in history, and you've got a group of lawmakers that are very much divided, all on top of America dealing with a global pandemic.
It's a very interesting question. People around the world in the past have looked to the United States to be that home of Republican, small r kind of Republican government, Democrat, small d Democratic system of governance. Maybe that's changed a bit, but we also see other governments and polities around the world are struggling with their own domestic politics. I think the more interesting thing in that discussion is, are foreign governments or international media or the public outside the United States focused on this? Or are they really focused on what will the current President Biden do with regard to issues that are important to those governments or countries? I think we see a lot more of the latter, that other governments are starting to move on because simply they have to deal with the government of the day in the United States. And whether it's COVID-19 or security issues, trade issues, people need to move on, and they need to prioritize what their issues are with the United States. And Donald Trump's impeachment trial in the Senate is not a priority issue for other foreign governments.
Okay, good to get your take on all of this. Ross Feingold live to us there from Taipei.